Hello and welcome to the last episode in the multiplayer series. In today's episode, we're going to look at how can we set up two bases, one base for each team, so a red base and a blue base. The bases don't look anything special at all, but it's all about the logic, not what they look like. Okay, we've just got cubes. But how they work is, that was the red one by the way. This next one we're going to find is the blue base. If you destroy the enemy's base, if you hit it a bunch, the red team, because they destroyed the blue team's base, is going to see victory. The blue team is going to see defeat. And then after a few seconds, everyone gets loaded back into the lobby and they're ready to start a new match. And if the other team won, it would be the same thing on the other side. Let's get straight into it. The first thing we need to do is go and make the base for our blueprints. If we're going to be working with bases, we need a blueprint to work with. So let's make a new blueprint class of type actor and call it BP_base. Open this up, compile and save. Oh, we really didn't need to compile and save there, but we're going to add a few things to this blueprint. Firstly, I'm going to add a component which is a static mesh. We want to have a mesh for our base. For now, I'm just going to leave this as a cube, the default cube. Obviously, you'll have your own fancy meshes, but just for testing purposes, we just need something to hit. And I'm also going to add the AC_health component, because then we can reapply all of our health to this base. So the base has health and the base can also die, which means the base has been destroyed. Under our variables tab, we're going to add two variables. The first one is going to be our team. So team, we need to tell the blueprint, whose team are they on. And we also need a variable called B is destroyed, which is going to be a Boolean, which just, we're going to store this as has the base yet been destroyed or not. We need to make our team variable instance editable and expose on spawn, because we're going to pass over the value of the team when this is created. But that is it for now. We do not need to make anything replicated because all of these variables are local to the base. The base is going to communicate through some events, so that's fine. Nothing needs to be replicated. In order for our base to communicate with the damage system, we do need to add a couple of things. If we go back and look at our projectile, when our projectile collides with something, we first check if it has the actor tag player, then we check the team of the base. So we're going to add the match player interface to the base, and we're going to add the actor tag to the base as well. Now, strictly speaking, this is probably not the best, most efficient way to do things, but seeing as though it has nothing at all to do with multiplayer, I'm not that interested. I don't think it's important because this is a multiplayer specific series. Although if you really wanted to optimize this, I would recommend making another interface for the base and making a separate tag for the base, and then doing a and check or check to make sure it's a player or it's a base, and then a different thing to make sure you can get it off the team. But because we just want to focus on a simple system so we can access multiplayer and understand multiplayer, let's just do that. So go back to the base, go on class defaults, search for tag and add a new tag called player. We then need to go to class settings, get rid of that. Go to class settings, implemented interfaces, and search for int_match player. And we only need one function really, it's the get team function, and we just need to input our team. So compile and save that. So now we will return whatever our team is. Then in the event graph for the base, on event begin play, we now want to listen to the death event dispatcher that happens on AC_health. So we're going to search for assign on death. So whenever the death is called on AC_health, this is going to listen to whatever's happening, and we're going to now do something. Now, I would like to point something out about this function here. Whenever you pull off an event off of a event dispatcher, you cannot decide whether it's on the client, the server, whatever. There is no options in here to say we want this to run on server. You cannot control that. This is because this function is specific to this You cannot control if it's on a server. So for us in this situation, that's fine. But just for future reference, if you ever wonder why there's no options here, it's just because you're not allowed to. The engine just doesn't want you to do that for some reason. So yeah, that's how it works. So on death, we're going to get is destroyed, and we're going to do a branch. So we're going to check, have we already been destroyed? And destroyed is basically death, right? So if we haven't already been destroyed, then set is destroyed to true. Then we're going to get our game mode. We're going to get the actual game mode we want. So get game mode ref, get the correct game mode we need. And then we are simply going to call a function on the game mode called base destroyed. We haven't yet made that function, but that base destroyed function is what's going to trigger the sort of next sequence of what's going to happen in this death function. So let's go to our BP_match game mode. Let's go down, find a bit more space, and make a custom event called base destroyed. Now we're going to add an input called team of type e_team. Okay, this variable is of type e_team, and let's just apply this now so we don't forget later. Let's just call this base destroyed and pass over the team, which we are holding here. There we go. And now we don't really need to do anything with the team now, apart from eventually we'll have to place it in the world, of course. Back in our match game mode now, let's implement this. So for this function, we don't really care where it's running because we're going to call to another custom event, which will decide to run this on the server. So for now, all we have to do really is just make another custom event called match end. And this is going to run on the server. So run on the server and reliable, because of course, if we're ending the match, that is something very important. And we do not want to allow the client side to run match end. It's a server thing on the game mode, because the game mode, like I said, the game mode, the referee controlling the game. Yeah, this match end function needs to take an input called winning team, and we can get that from the team that has their base destroyed, because it's the opposite, right? So if we call this match end function, whatever team has had their base destroyed is the opposite of the winning team. So if we do a select, plug in the team option, if it's none, we'll leave as none. That's never going to happen. If it's red, we need to pass over blue, and if it's blue, we need to pass over red. If the red base has been destroyed, the blue team has won. If the blue team's base has been destroyed, then red has won. So this match end function now is running, and it knows which team has won. We now need to get our match players, so get everyone in the match. We need to loop through all of them with a for each loop, because we're now going to tell each player individually, hey, you've won, or hey, you've lost. Figure it out, right? The player is then going to have a defined behavior, what they're going to run when they've either won or lost. And that is going to be, show either a win screen or a lose screen, and then, head off to the lobby. So we're looping through each of our players. We would like to do an is valid check. Is valid. And then here, we need to call to a function, but we don't obviously have that function yet. So we're going to make that function on our interface. So go to content drawer, go to multiplayer interfaces, int_match player. Go into this interfaces, click on add function, and call this client side end. Actually, we can drop the client side because we're going to reuse that in the actual function. So just call this end match. Now in our game mode, we're going to call this function array element, come over the top, drag down here, and just say end match. Very nice. Plug that in there. That's all now we really need from our game mode. Now we need to go and figure out what are we going to do on the player controller when this end match fires. So we're going to go to our top-down controller, double click on the end match interface, drag that over to the side. And this interface function needs to run on the owning client, but of course we can't run on the owning client from an interface function. So we have to make a custom event called end, we'll call this client side end match. and this is going to run on the owning client because each client is responsible for their leaving of the match. The server has said, okay, the match has ended, you all need to leave. And now it's the player controller's responsibility to sort of, decide what to do when that happens. I also realized we need to send over the winning team through this interface. So go back to the interface, go to the end match interface, input, and let's just call this winning team. And it's going to be of type eTeam. Very nice. Compile, save. In our game mode now, we can plug the winning team into that end match function, add some React nodes so it looks a bit more readable. Now back in our top-down controller, the client-side end match will again take in this winning team of type eTeam. We're going to take in that value, and off event end match, we're going to call to this function, so client-side end match. We're going to plug winning team into winning team. Then we are going to disable input. So when the match ends, the first thing we're going to do is disable input. Now our project, we use the default template for top down. And when you're disabling input, you're just disabling keyboard input. So we will no longer be able to click 1 on our keyboard, which is what we use for attacking. So the player can no longer send attacks. However, this doesn't disable mouse clicks. I quite like that actually, because it means as soon as the match ends, the players can still run around. You can click on the map to run around, but you can no longer attack or do any damage or anything. So I'm leaving this how this is. However, you might decide, you don't want to disable input, or you want to fully just pause the game, in which case you could just say like set game paused. But I don't want to set the game paused. I quite like it having the input disabled, so you can still run around by clicking your mouse. Because we're in that template. Yeah, the target is going to be the controlled pawn. Getting controlled pawn because this is the player controller. The player controller is disabling the input on the controlled pawn. Then we're going to get the player state. So get player state. Get this blue one to make sure it's the local player state. We're going to cast to BP_match player state. Then we want to check if the team of our player state is the same as the winning team, we can, win. And if it's not the same, then we've lost, and we handle losing logic. So we want to get to our team. We want to, if I can spell it right, get the team from our match player state, and we want to check, is it equal with an enum? So equal enum, is this team equal to the winning team? And then we do a little branch to actually do that condition check. And this is going to be the player has won, and this is going to be the player has lost, because if their team is the same as the winning team, then obviously they've won. Now the logic that I want to do is, if they have won, I'm going to add a widget to their screen, which is the winning screen, so it'll say victory, and then I will wait a little bit. Then I'll destroy the session and send them back to the lobby. Very nice. And if they've lost, we'll do the same thing, but instead of showing a winning screen, we will show a lose screen. So let's go and make those widgets. Go to the content drawer, multiplayer UI. Let's make a new widget. So search for widget, make a new widget blueprint, use a widget and call this WBP under win screen. Open this up. I've just quickly made this UI. There's a canvas panel, a border, size box, and text. There's nothing in here that you actually need. We're not going to run any logic. Nothing's going to happen in this. It's purely just a display to show the word victory. You can make this look like whatever you want. Then we're going to duplicate this and call it WBP underscore lose screen. And I'm just going to make some minor changes. There we go. I've changed the color of the border and I've changed the text to defeat. Again, we're not actually running any logic in this widget, so it doesn't matter what yours looks like. You just need a widget. You could literally just have the words victory and defeat, just so you know which one's which. And if we go back to our top-down controller now, on true, we're going to say create widget. The widget we're creating, WBP underscore win screen. There we go. We're going to add this to viewport, and on the false, we're going to copy and paste this And all we're changing is the screen we're displaying. So we're going to search for wbp_lose screen. Then we can bring these two nodes back together because they're both going to do the same thing from now on. We're going to delay 5 seconds, just a short delay. We don't want it to be instant. And then afterwards, we're going to say destroy session. The play controller of which we're destroying the session is self, to eject our self from the current session. And then just to be sure, we're going to say open level by object reference on success or failure. And the level we're opening is the startup map. Compile and save. So to recap, when we call this event end match from the game mode, so the base gets destroyed, right? The base gets destroyed. This event fires because it's using the AC_health, which we made before, and it's going to tell the game mode, hey, one of the bases has been destroyed. This is the team of which the base has been destroyed. Then the game mode receives that event and calls the match end event, which runs on the server and goes through all of the players and tells them, hey, the match has ended. This is the team which has won. I don't know why this little select node had been deleted for me, so I've just added that back. But then we tell all the players, who's won. Then the player receives this event and runs a client-side event, which is just each client's own implementation of what are they going to do when the match is finished. And that is basically disable input so they can no longer attack each other. They can still move around by clicking their mouse because that's how our characters move, by clicking the mouse, but they can no longer attack. Then we're going to get our match player state and we're going to check, is the team that won the same as our team? So, have we won or have we lost? If we have won, we're going to show a win screen. If we've lost, we're going to show a lose screen. Then no matter what else happens, we're going to wait 5 seconds, then leave the match and go back to the lobby. Very nice. Now in our actual map, in our top-down template, we need to add these bases. So if we go back to our blueprints folder and we add this base over here, drag it over, put it on the ground, put it over here like this, put it down. The team, we're going to set the team to red on this side, and that just disappeared. I've got no idea where that went. Okay, that was weird. Let me replace it and set the team to red. Save. Okay, there's probably an issue with the base itself. Viewport, get team, event graph. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so I've got no idea what was happening there. I just restarted it and it seems that the cubes have now been placed. So that was just a weird little glitch. Now let's place one base over here. This is on team red. We'll place another base on the other side. So just duplicate this one, place it over, change this one to team blue. We also need to actually set the health of these cubes because we added the health component, but we can control the health. Where is it? Let's go to base, AC health, 100 and 100. Yep, that's set just fine. Save this. Now everything should be fine. Let's go to the lobby map. Let's now click play. Let's see everything load up. Of course, this is going to take a couple seconds. I don't really want to pause it and skip ahead because I don't want people to think, oh, something bad happened and I just skipped over it and edited it out. I like to show the entire process so I've shown everything that's happening. So now if we press J on all 3, accept all of the matches, we'll wait for them to go and load in. Now we should see team allocation happening. We got 2 on red, 2 on blue, 1 on blue, sorry. The red team was the one on the left and the blue team was the one on the right. So if we go to the right now, this is the blue team base. We're going to destroy it. Victory on red and defeat on blue after 5 seconds. We've been sent back to the lobby, and to prove that we haven't broke our game and we can still work, we need to show that we can now load back into another match because we should be able to go from the lobby to another match. So the first guy has loaded in, then I'm going to click play on the other 2. The reason I've waited for the first person to load in before I click play on the other 2 is because it takes a few seconds for the session to be initialized. So if you click play on all 3 at the same time, the first one won't have actually initialized their session. So all 3 of them are going to join a separate game because there isn't yet a game ready for them to join. So you always need to wait a little bit for the first one to actually join a match. But now we will put all 3 of these guys back into a match. It's looking good so far. Nothing's broken the second time round. It's always good to test it the second time round to see, if it actually works, if all the variables have reset properly. Now this time, before we destroyed the red team one, let's go destroy the blue team one this time. Or the red team one, sorry. Victory on blue, defeat on red. After 5 seconds, we're back in the lobby. Great. Everything is working. That is the series complete. We have just finished everything. If you want to see more multiplayer episodes on more multiplayer features, please let me know in the comments. Join my Discord server, tell me about it. I am happy to make more episodes on more things if the demand is there. If people don't want to see it, if I don't see comments, if the video doesn't perform well, then I'll know, okay, maybe I should move on to a different topic. But if there's other things that I haven't covered that you want me to cover, for example, how to integrate Steam properly and get an online system going rather than just a local multiplayer, how can we make an online multiplayer using Steam, or how can we make various features, maybe you want to see how can we make a multiplayer boss fight, I could do those things, I'd love to. Just let me know if there's interest. You can get the completed project files for this course on Patreon. I've also added some extra bonus features. I've added some assets to make the map look nicer. So it's more of a smooth, well-rounded system that looks better. But this contains all of the functionality. We've made the base. I didn't really bother making the base look nice because anyone can do that on their own side. It doesn't really matter. It's nothing to do with multiplayer, what this looks like. I just wanted to show you how to set up the system of sending the end match function from one place to another and having everyone load back to their lobby on their end. With all that being said, I hope you have enjoyed the series, and hopefully I will see you in another series at some point soon.